I am 26 years old. My name is Maya. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I stood in a small room at the back of the church, looking at myself in the mirror. My dress was white and simple, just like I wanted. My hair was pinned up with little pearls. My mother said I looked like a princess. I did not feel like one. My hands were shaking, not from excitement, not from nerves. They were shaking with a cold, sharp feeling that had settled deep in my bones. 10 minutes ago, my soon-to-be husband, Alex, had come into this room. His face was pale. His eyes were wide with a fear I had never seen before. He closed the door behind him, his hand trembling on the knob. He looked at me, standing there in my wedding dress, and his face crumbled. He took a shaky breath. "Maya," he said, his voice a whisper. "I have to tell you something. I cannot let you walk down that aisle without knowing." I waited. My heart started to beat a slow, heavy drum against my ribs. I thought he was going to say he was sick, or that he was having second thoughts. I could have handled that. I could have talked him through it. I was good at that, at being the calm one, the steady one. But what he said next shattered everything. "I am already married," he said. The words hung in the air between us, thick and ugly. "I have a wife. Her name is Sarah. We got married 3 years ago." I stared at him. The room felt like it was tilting. The pearls in my hair suddenly felt heavy, pulling at my scalp. I looked at his face, searching for a sign that this was some kind of terrible, cruel joke. But there was no joke in his eyes. There was only panic and a strange kind of relief. The relief of someone who has finally let go of a heavy secret. My first thought was a tidal wave of pain. It was so intense, so overwhelming that I could not breathe. Every moment we had shared, every promise he had made, every plan we had built for our future, it all turned to ash in my mind. He was married. He had a wife. And he had let me plan a wedding. He had let my parents spend their savings. He had let me stand here in this white dress, ready to commit my life to a man who was already committed to someone else. The pain was quickly followed by a hot, bright surge of anger. It was so pure and so powerful that it burned away the tears before they could even form. How dare he? How dare he do this to me? How dare he stand there looking pathetic and scared? After destroying my world in 3 short sentences? And then, a third feeling emerged, cold and clear as ice. It pushed the pain and the anger aside. It was a thought, a decision that formed in my mind with absolute certainty. He expected me to scream. He expected me to cry, to call off the wedding, to run out of the church in a flood of humiliation and heartbreak. He expected me to fall apart. I would not give him the satisfaction. I looked at him, my expression unreadable. My hands, which had been shaking, were suddenly still. I smoothed down the front of my dress. I met his panicked gaze in the mirror. "Go to the altar, Alex," I said. My voice was quiet, but it did not waver. "I will be out in a minute." He stared at me, his mouth hanging open. He was confused. This was not the reaction he had prepared for. "What?" he stammered. "Maya, did you hear me?" I said I'm married. "I heard you," I said, turning to face him directly. My eyes were cold. And I said, "Go to the altar. We are getting married today." He looked utterly lost. It was almost comical. He had come in here to detonate a bomb, and I had simply looked at the wreckage and told him to clean it up. He thought he was in control of this moment, of this disaster he had created. He was wrong. I was in control now. He had just handed me all the power, and I was going to use it. Because I was not just going to marry him. I was going to destroy him. Alex just stood there for a moment, his mind clearly struggling to catch up. He looked from my face to the door and back again. He had expected a storm, and instead, he got a dead calm. It unnerved him. I could see it in the way his shoulders tensed, the way he could not quite meet my eyes. "But why?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Maya, we cannot. It would not be legal. It would not be real. That sounds like a problem for you, not for me, I said. My voice was still level, still quiet. Inside, my heart was a raging fire, but on the outside, I was a statue. You are the one who is already married. You are the one committing a crime. I am just a girl in a white dress, ready to marry the man I love. I let a small, bitter smile touch my lips. Or the man I thought I loved. That last part seemed to land. He flinched. Good. I wanted him to hurt. I wanted him to feel a fraction of the betrayal that was currently suffocating me. I did not want to hurt you, he said. The classic excuse of every person who has ever inflicted deep pain. It was a pathetic, flimsy shield, and I saw right through it. You failed, I said simply. Now, are you going to the altar, or do I have to go out there and explain to 200 people why the groom has suddenly gone missing? I wonder what they would think. I wonder what my father would do. The mention of my father was a calculated move. My dad was a calm man, but he had a spine of steel and he adored me. He had also, from the very beginning, been slightly wary of Alex. He thought Alex was a little too smooth, a little too charming. If my father found out what Alex had just done, he would not be quiet or gentle about it. Alex knew this. The color drained even further from his face. Okay, he whispered, nodding his head slowly. Okay, I will go. He looked at me one last time, a pleading expression in his eyes, as if he wanted me to save him from the mess he had created. I gave him nothing. My face was a mask of cold resolve. He turned and walked out of the room, his steps heavy, like a man walking to his own execution. The moment the door clicked shut, the strength I was projecting seemed to drain out of me. My knees felt weak, and I had to grab the back of a chair to steady myself. I took a deep, shuddering breath. The air in the room felt thick, heavy with his lies. I looked at my reflection again. The woman in the mirror looked the same, but I was not the same person I was 5 minutes ago. That girl was gone forever. In her place was someone else. Someone harder, colder. Someone who was about to walk down an aisle and commit her life to a lie. All for the sake of a revenge she had not even fully planned yet. My maid of honor, my best friend Chloe, knocked softly and then poked her head in. Hey, it is almost time. Is everything okay? You look pale. I forced a smile. It felt brittle, like it might crack my face. Just a little nervous, I said. Alex was just in here. He was nervous too. Chloe smiled sympathetically. She had no idea. Of course he was. He is the luckiest guy in the world. Ready to go? I took one last look in the mirror. My eyes met my own reflection. I saw the pain there, hidden deep behind the resolve. But I also saw a spark, a dangerous glint of determination. He thought he had won. He thought he had gotten away with it. That my quiet compliance was a sign of weakness. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. I am ready, I said to Chloe, my voice filled with the meaning that only I could understand. I was not just ready to get married. I was ready for war. Walking down the aisle felt like moving through a dream. The faces of our friends and family turned towards me, all of them smiling, their eyes filled with warmth and happiness for us. They were all celebrating a beautiful love story, a perfect beginning. They had no idea they were witnesses to the start of a carefully orchestrated demolition. Each step I took on the white runner was deliberate. With each step, I buried the hurt a little deeper and sharpened the anger into a fine, pointed weapon. I saw my parents in the front pew. My mother was already dabbing her eyes with a tissue, her face glowing with pride. My father watched me, his expression serious but loving. He had worked so hard to give me this day. He and my mom had paid for almost everything, wanting it to be perfect for their only daughter. The thought of their generosity, their love, being twisted and exploited by the man waiting for me at the altar made my stomach clench. This was not just about my broken heart anymore. This was about his betrayal of my entire family. When I reached the front, my father kissed my cheek and placed my hand in Alex's. Alex's hand was cold and clammy. He squeezed my fingers, a desperate, silent plea. I did not squeeze back. I kept my hand limp in his, a small physical rejection that I knew he would understand. I looked at him as we stood before the officiant. He would not meet my eyes. He stared straight ahead, his jaw tight, his posture rigid. He looked like a man trapped, and a small, vicious part of me enjoyed it. He had trapped me, and now he was feeling the bars of his own cage closing in around him. The ceremony began. The officiant spoke of love, of trust, of honesty and commitment. Every word was a lie. Every beautiful sentiment was a mockery of our situation. I stood there and listened, my mind working furiously. Why had he told me? And why now at the last possible second? He could have just not shown up. He could have told me weeks ago. Telling me minutes before the wedding was a specific choice. He was testing me. He was trying to see what my breaking point was. Or maybe he was trying to create an escape hatch for himself. If I called it off, he could play the part of the tragic, flawed man who tried to do the right thing at the last minute. He would be the one who was honest, even if it was painful. I would be the one left to explain the humiliating cancellation to everyone. He would get sympathy. I would get pity. No, I would not allow that. I would play the part of the happy bride. I would smile and say my vows, and I would sign the marriage license. I would let him believe he had succeeded, that he had somehow managed to get what he wanted without any immediate consequences. "Do you, Maya, take Alex to be your lawfully wedded husband?" the officiant asked. The entire church was silent, waiting. I could feel Alex's tension beside me. He still thought I might say no. He still thought I might break. I turned to him and forced the brightest, most loving smile I could manage. I looked directly into his eyes, forcing him to look at me. "I do," I said, my voice clear and steady. A wave of relief washed over his face. It was so obvious, so pathetic. He thought he was safe. He thought the danger had passed. He had no idea he had just walked willingly into my trap. When he said his "I do," his voice was shaky, but he got it out. We exchanged rings. The cold metal on my finger felt like a shackle, a reminder of the lie I was now bound to. But it was also a tool. It was my proof. It was my entry into his life, a life I was now going to dismantle piece by piece. The officiant pronounced us husband and wife. "You may kiss the bride," he said cheerfully. Alex turned to me, his expression a mixture of relief and guilt. He leaned in, and for a second I thought I was going to recoil. But I did not. I steeled myself. I let him kiss me. It was a brief, cold kiss, devoid of any passion or love. It felt like sealing a business deal. And in a way, it was. I had just entered into a contract, and I intended to enforce the penalty clause. As we walked back down the aisle, showered with confetti and cheers, Alex kept his arm tightly around my waist. He was smiling now, a wide, fake smile for the cameras and the crowd. He whispered in my ear, "Thank you. I will explain everything. I promise." I just smiled back at him, a sweet, serene smile that did not reach my eyes. "Oh, I know you will," I whispered back. "You will explain everything. To everyone." The reception was held in a beautiful old ballroom my parents had rented. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and every table was decorated with white roses and flickering candles. It was the picture of a perfect wedding, a perfect hollow lie. As we entered, the band played an upbeat song, and our guests cheered. Alex waved, playing the part of the happy groom flawlessly. He was a good actor. I had to give him that. We sat at the head table, flanked by our families and the bridal party. From the outside, we looked like the ideal couple. But under the table, I could feel Alex's leg bouncing nervously. He was on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I intended to let him wait. I would draw this out. I would let him think he was in the clear, let him relax into the lie before I pulled the rug out from under him. My father stood up to give the first speech. He talked about me as a little girl, about how proud he was of the woman I had become. He welcomed Alex into the family, calling him a fine young man. I watched Alex as my father spoke. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. He stared down at his plate, a faint flush on his cheeks. He was feeling the weight of his deception, but it was not guilt. It was fear. Fear of being caught. When my father finished, everyone applauded. Alex leaned over to me. "Your dad is a great guy," he said, his voice low. "He did not deserve this." "No, he did not," I agreed, my voice devoid of emotion. I took a sip of my champagne. It tasted like ashes. "So, tell me about Sarah." He froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. He put it down slowly. "Not here, Maya," he hissed, glancing around to see if anyone was listening. "We will talk later. Tonight, I promise." "I am not in the mood to wait," I said, keeping my voice light, as if we were discussing the weather. "Just the basics. How did you meet? What does she do? Does she know you are here, getting married to another woman?" He looked trapped. He could not make a scene. "Not here, not now." He had to answer me. "We met in college," he mumbled, his eyes darting around the room. She is a teacher. And no, she does not know. We have been separated for a while. It is complicated." "Separated?" I repeated. The word was a lie, I was sure of it. He was not separated. He was just a liar. "How long is a while?" "A year," he said quickly. Too quickly. Another lie. "So, you were separated when you met me?" I asked, arching an eyebrow. We had met 11 months ago. The timeline was just a little too convenient. "Yes," he insisted. "It was basically over. We never got around to the paperwork. It was a mistake, Maya. A stupid, terrible mistake. I was going to tell you." "But you did not," I finished for him. "You waited until 10 minutes before the ceremony." "Why, Alex?" "Why then?" He shook his head, looking miserable. I panicked. I could not go through with it without being honest with you. I thought you would understand." "Understand what?" I pressed. "That you are a bigamist? That you have been lying to me and my family for almost a year? That our entire relationship is a fraud? What part of that did you think I would understand?" His face hardened. A flicker of his true self, the arrogant, entitled man I was now beginning to see, showed through. "Look, I told you, did not I?" he said, his voice tight with frustration. I could have just not said anything. I tried to do the right thing. I almost laughed. It was a bitter, ugly sound. The right thing? The right thing would have been to tell me the day you met me, or the day you proposed, or any of the 330 days in between. Telling me when I am in my wedding dress with 200 guests waiting is not the right thing. It is cowardice. It is manipulation. He recoiled as if I had slapped him. "That is not fair." "Fair?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. "You want to talk about fair? Let us talk about the $50,000 my parents spent on this party. Let us talk about the months I spent planning every detail. Let us talk about the fact that you have a wife, a whole other life that you conveniently forgot to mention. Do not you dare talk to me about what is fair." He fell silent. He had no defense. He just sat there, staring at his plate, the perfect picture of a man caught in a lie of his own making. The band started playing a slow song, the cue for our first dance. Alex looked at me, a question in his eyes. I stood up and held out my hand. "Come on, husband," I said, the word tasting like poison on my tongue. "We have to give them a good show." As we walked to the dance floor, I felt the cold resolve settle over me again. This was not just about exposing him anymore. I needed to understand why. There was a piece of the puzzle missing. People did not do things like this without a reason, and I was going to find out what it was. My revenge would not just be about revealing his lie. It would be about uncovering the truth behind it and making sure he paid for every single part of it. Dancing with Alex felt like holding a stranger. I rested my head on his shoulder, playing the part of the blushing bride for our audience. But inside, I was a whirlwind of calculations. His story did not make sense. If he was separated and the marriage was over, why not just get a divorce? The paperwork was not that complicated. Why maintain the lie for so long, only to confess at the worst possible moment? There had to be more to it than just a stupid mistake. My mind raced through our entire relationship. He had always been a little vague about his past. He said he had moved here from another state 2 years ago for a job opportunity. He did not have much family, just a distant cousin he never saw. He had friends, but they were all new friends, people he had met since he moved. There was no deep history, no old friendships that stretched back for years. I had always accepted it. He seemed like a man focused on his future, not his past. Now, I realized he was not just focused on the future. He was actively hiding his past. As the song ended, we walked back to our table. I needed to get away from him, to think. I needed access to information. I needed his phone. "I am going to the ladies' room," I said, giving him a small, tight smile. "I will be right back." Chloe followed me. The moment we were inside the restroom, her cheerful expression dropped. "Okay, what is going on?" she asked, her eyes searching my face. "You have been weird all night. You look like you are about to either scream or break something. And Alex looks like a scared puppy." I trusted Chloe with my life. I knew I had to tell her. I could not do this alone. I took a deep breath and the whole story came pouring out. I told her about Alex coming into the bridal room, his confession, his pathetic excuses. I told her about my decision to go through with the wedding. She stared at me, her mouth agape. For a full minute, she was completely silent, just processing the sheer insanity of it all. Then, she let out a low whistle. "Wow," she said. "Just, wow. I cannot believe he did that. I am so sorry, Maya." She came forward and wrapped me in a hug. I let myself lean on her for a moment, the first moment of genuine comfort I had felt all day. When she pulled back, her eyes were blazing with anger on my behalf. "So, what is the plan?" she asked, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Because you obviously have one. You did not marry that scumbag just to save face." "I do not know yet," I admitted. "Not the whole plan, anyway. But I know what I need first. I need his phone, and his wallet." Chloe's eyes lit up. "Say no more," she said with a grin. "I am on it. What is the signal?" We quickly devised a plan. Chloe would go back out and create a distraction. She would get the DJ to play a silly dance song and drag Alex's best man, Mark, onto the dance floor. In the commotion, I would go to the head table, where Alex had left his jacket on the back of his chair. His phone and wallet would be in the pockets. It worked perfectly. Chloe was a master of chaos when she wanted to be. The DJ played a ridiculous song, and she practically pulled Mark out of his seat. Several other people joined in, laughing and dancing. Alex was distracted, watching them with a forced smile. I walked calmly to the table, pretending to adjust my dress. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I reached into his jacket pocket. My fingers closed around the cool metal of his phone and the worn leather of his wallet. I slipped them into the small, hidden pocket my seamstress had sewn into my dress for emergencies. I had thought it would be for a lipstick or a tissue. Instead, it was holding the keys to my revenge. I went back to the restroom and locked the door. I took out the phone first. It was locked with a passcode. Of course. I tried a few obvious combinations. His birthday, my birthday, our anniversary. Nothing. I was about to give up when I remembered something he had said once, a long time ago. He was talking about his first pet, a golden retriever named Buddy. He had told me the dog's birthday was the same as his, just a different year. On a hunch, I tried the dog's birthday. 1208. The phone unlocked. I felt a jolt of triumph. He was arrogant. He was careless. He had no idea what I was capable of. I opened his messages first. I scrolled back, my fingers flying across the screen. I was looking for any mention of Sarah. I found it. But it was not what I expected. The messages were not loving or romantic. They were tense, angry. They were all about money. One message from Sarah, sent 2 weeks ago, read, "Alex, I am done waiting. You have until the end of the month to pay me back. All of it. Or I go to the police." Another one from Alex replied, "Just give me a little more time. I have a plan. I am getting the money. You will have it by the 1st. The 1st of the month. The day after our wedding. It was all starting to make sense. This was not about love or a secret marriage. This was about a debt, a huge one. I scrolled further, finding more messages, piecing together the story. Alex and Sarah had been in business together. He had embezzled money from their company. A lot of money. She had found out and was threatening to press charges. He had promised to pay her back, but he did not have the money. So, he found me. He found my loving, generous family. He saw us as his solution. The wedding, the gifts, the check my father had given us for a down payment on a house. That was his plan. That was how he was going to pay Sarah back and save himself from going to jail. But why the lie about being married to her? I thought about it, the pieces clicking into place with a sickening clarity. It was a failsafe, a backup plan. He told me he was married to her so that if his money scheme did not work, or if I found out about the debt, he would have an out. He could get our marriage annulled easily, claiming it was never legal in the first place because of his pre-existing marriage. He could walk away, leaving me with the humiliation and the emotional wreckage while he figured out another way to solve his problems. He had built himself a fire escape, a way to burn my life down and walk away without getting singed. And the confession, right before the ceremony? That was the most twisted part of all. He was hedging his bets. By telling me at the last minute, he put all the pressure on me. If I called it off, he would be the tragic, honest man. If I went through with it like I did, he would have my silence bought and paid for. Because what bride would admit she knowingly married a bigamist on her wedding day? He thought he had me trapped either way. I opened his wallet. There was not much cash, a few credit cards. And tucked away in a hidden flap, a driver's license. It was from the state he had moved from. The name on it was Alex Peterson. The address was one I did not recognize. But the most important part was the box next to marital status. It was checked single. He was not married to Sarah. He had never been married to Sarah. The entire story was a lie. A complex, layered lie designed to manipulate me, use my family's money, and protect himself from the consequences of his own crimes. I felt a wave of nausea. He had not just betrayed me. He had constructed an entire false reality around me. He was not just a liar. He was a predator. I took a picture of the driver's license with his phone and sent it to my own. I took screenshots of the text messages between him and Sarah. I forwarded them to my email and then deleted the evidence from his phone sent folders. I put the phone and the wallet back in my pocket. I looked at myself in the mirror. The shock was gone. The hurt was still there, a dull ache in my chest. But the anger had transformed into something else. It was a cold, hard certainty. I knew what I had to do. My plan, which had been a vague idea of exposure, was now crystal clear. He did not want a wife. He wanted money. He wanted a silent partner in his fraud. Fine. I would be his partner. I would play the part of the loving, forgiving wife. I would let him think he had succeeded. I would let him get comfortable. I would let him believe he was the smartest person in the room. And then, when the moment was right, I would take everything from him, not just the money. I would take his reputation, his freedom, his future. I would make sure that Sarah got her justice and I would get mine. I unlocked the bathroom door and walked back into the ballroom. I found Alex at the bar, talking to his best man, Mark. They both looked tense. When they saw me, they stopped talking abruptly. Mark gave me a nervous smile and quickly walked away. He knew. Of course he knew. He was an accomplice. I filed that piece of information away. Mark would be part of the fallout. I walked up to Alex and put my hand on his arm. "Hey," I said, my voice soft. "I am sorry about before. I was just shocked. We can talk about everything tonight. For now, let us just try to enjoy our wedding." Relief flooded his face, so pure and complete that it was almost sickening to watch. He actually believed me. He believed that the woman he had so thoroughly betrayed, was willing to just put it all aside and enjoy the party. He was so arrogant, so convinced of his own charm, that he could not imagine a reality where I was not captivated by him. "Really?" he said, his voice hopeful. "You mean it?" "I do," I said, echoing my earlier vow. This time it was a vow to myself. "I married you, did not I? I chose to stand by you. That has to mean something." "It means everything," he said, pulling me into a hug. He held me tight, burying his face in my hair. "Thank you, Maya. You will not regret this. I will make it all up to you, I swear." I just stood there in his arms, my body rigid. "I know you will," I said quietly. He thought I was forgiving him. He had no idea I was pronouncing his sentence. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. I danced with my father. I laughed with my friends. I smiled for pictures. I played the part of the happy bride so convincingly that even I almost forgot the truth. But every time I looked at Alex, every time he smiled at me, confident that he had dodged a bullet, the cold anger in my gut reminded me. This was all an act. The real show was yet to begin. We had planned to stay at a fancy hotel downtown for our wedding night. My parents had booked us the honeymoon suite as a gift. As we got into the car to leave the reception, our guests cheering and throwing rice, Alex squeezed my hand. "I cannot wait to be alone with you," he said, his voice low and intimate. I felt a shiver of disgust, but I forced a smile. "Me too," I lied. The hotel suite was beautiful. There were rose petals on the bed, a bottle of champagne on ice, and a stunning view of the city lights. It was supposed to be the most romantic night of my life. Instead, it felt like a prison cell. Alex popped the champagne and poured 2 glasses. He handed one to me. "A toast," he said, raising his glass. "To us. To new beginnings." I clinked my glass against his. "To new beginnings," I repeated. I took a small sip. He, on the other hand, drained half his glass in one go. He was still celebrating his narrow escape. He sat down on the edge of the bed and patted the spot next to him. "Come on," he said. "Let us talk. I want to tell you everything." This was it. Time for Act 2 of my performance. I sat down next to him, my expression open and patient. I was the understanding wife, ready to listen to my troubled husband's confession. "I am listening," I said. He launched into a carefully rehearsed story. He told me about Sarah, painting her as a volatile, unstable business partner he had made the mistake of getting involved with. He claimed she had become obsessed with him, that she had pressured him into a quick, foolish marriage that he had regretted almost immediately. He said they had separated years ago, but she had always refused to sign divorce papers, using it to hold something over him. "I was trapped, Maya," he said, his eyes pleading for my sympathy. "I fell in love with you, and I did not know what to do. I should have told you sooner, I know that. I was a coward. But I was so scared of losing you." It was a good story. It was believable. It made him the victim and Sarah the villain. If I did not have the proof on my phone, I might have even believed him. "And the money?" I asked, my voice gentle. "The text messages I saw on your phone were about money." Oh, right. I had forgotten to mention that I had broken into his phone. I watched the color drain from his face. It was a beautiful sight. You. You went through my phone? He stammered, his act falling apart for a second. You confessed to being a bigamist minutes before our wedding? I said calmly. I think that entitled me to a little bit of fact-checking. So the money, Alex, what is that about? Panic flashed in his eyes, but he recovered quickly. He was a good liar. I had to give him that. He incorporated the new information into his narrative seamlessly. That is part of her control, he said, shaking his head sadly. She claims I owe her money from the business. It is not true. It is just another way for her to keep her hooks in me. She is threatening to go to the police with these false accusations if I do not pay her. That is why I needed the money from the wedding gifts. To pay her off, to finally be free of her so we can start our life together. He looked at me, his eyes wide and earnest. He was selling it with everything he had. He really believed he could talk his way out of this. He was underestimating me, and that was his biggest mistake. So, you want to use the money my parents gave us to pay off your crazy, obsessive, not quite ex-wife? I asked, summarizing his ridiculous story. To get her out of our lives forever, he corrected. So, it can be just you and me. I know it is a lot to ask. But I love you, Maya. And I know we can get through this together. I stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city lights. I needed a moment to control the rage that was building inside me. He was not just a liar and a thief. He was a master manipulator. He was trying to make me his accomplice. He wanted me to be complicit in his fraud, to use my family's money to solve his problems, all under the guise of our future. I turned back to him. I let a single tear roll down my cheek. I had been practicing this in the bathroom mirror at the reception. It looked very convincing. I do not know what to say, I whispered, my voice trembling. This is all so much. I love you, Alex. But this is a mess. He rushed to my side, wrapping his arms around me. I know, he soothed, stroking my hair. But we are a team now. We will fix it together. Just tell me you are with me. I looked up at him, my eyes wide and tear-filled. Okay, I whispered. Okay, we will fix it together. He hugged me tightly, relief washing over him once again. He thought he had done it. He had confessed, weathered the storm, and come out on the other side with a loving, compliant wife and a solution to all his financial troubles. He was on top of the world. Later that night, as he slept soundly beside me, I lay awake in the dark. The city lights twinkled outside the window. I felt a strange sense of calm. The emotional storm had passed, leaving behind a cold, hard purpose. I had the evidence. I had his confession, twisted as it was. And now I had his trust. My plan had multiple steps. First, I needed to contact Sarah. She deserved to know what he was planning. She was a victim in this too, and she could be a powerful ally. Second, I needed to protect my family's money. The check my father had given us was in a newly opened joint account. I needed to make sure Alex could not touch it. Third, I needed to gather more information. I had his lies, but I wanted the full, unvarnished truth. And finally, I needed to choose the perfect moment to bring it all crashing down. It would not be here, in the quiet of a hotel room. It would be public. It would be humiliating. It would be a spectacle he would never forget. He had wanted a new beginning. I was going to give him an ending. The next morning, I woke up early. Alex was still asleep, a peaceful smile on his face. He looked so innocent, so harmless. It was a chilling reminder of how deceptive appearances could be. I slipped out of bed and got dressed quietly. I needed to make some calls. I went down to the hotel lobby, my phone in my hand. I had Sarah's number from the text messages. I hesitated for a moment, my thumb hovering over the call button. What if she did not believe me? What if she was in on it somehow? But the tone of her messages, the desperate anger, told me she was not a partner in his scheme. She was his victim. Just like me. I pressed the button. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was cautious. Hello? Is this Sarah? I asked. Who is this? She replied, her tone immediately suspicious. My name is Maya, I said. I think we have a mutual acquaintance. Alex Peterson. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. What about him? She asked, her voice hard. He got married yesterday, I said simply. To me. Silence. For a long moment, I thought she had hung up. Then I heard a sound, a choked, bitter laugh. Of course he did, she said, her voice filled with a weary disgust. Of course. Let me guess. He needs money. He told me he needed it to pay you off, I said. He said you were his unstable ex-wife who was blackmailing him. Another laugh, this one louder and angrier. Unstable ex-wife? We were never married. We were business partners. And he did not borrow money from me. He stole it, $200,000. He cleaned out our company account and disappeared. The number she quoted was higher than I had imagined. This was not a small debt. This was grand larceny. I have text messages between the two of you, I said, and a picture of his old driver's license. It says he is single. You are smarter than his usual type, Sarah said. There was a grudging respect in her voice. So, what do you want from me, Maya? Sympathy? Because I am all out. I do not want sympathy, I said, my voice firm. I want justice, and I think we can help each other get it. He thinks I believe his story. He thinks I am going to help him use my family's money to pay you back. He is comfortable. He is careless, and I am going to make sure he pays for what he did to both of us. There was another long pause. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. The weariness was gone, replaced by a spark of interest. What do you have in mind? We talked for almost an hour. I told her my plan. She told me the full story of his betrayal, filling in the gaps in my knowledge. He had been charming and persuasive, convincing her to invest her life savings into their startup. For the first year, things were great. Then he started getting secretive. He started making excuses about expenses, about cash flow problems. By the time she realized what was happening, the money was gone, and so was he. She had spent the last year trying to track him down, hiring a private investigator, threatening legal action. She had finally found him a few weeks ago, which explained the timing of her threatening texts. He is a sociopath, she said, her voice flat. He feels no guilt, no remorse. He just moves on to the next victim. You need to be careful, Maya. I will be, I promised. He thinks I am on his side. That is my advantage. We agreed to work together. She would send me copies of all the financial records, the proof of his embezzlement. I would continue to play the part of the devoted wife, gathering more evidence of his fraud. We would coordinate our attack. When I got back to the hotel room, Alex was awake. He was sitting on the bed, looking at his phone. He looked up when I came in, a worried expression on his face. Where were you? I was worried. Just getting some air, I said breezily. Thinking about things. I have made a decision, Alex. He held his breath. You're right, I said, walking over to him. I sat on the bed and took his hands in mine. We are a team. We need to get Sarah out of our lives for good. How much do we need to give her? The relief on his face was so profound it was almost grotesque. He was like a child who had just been told that Christmas was coming early. 200,000, he said, the number rolling off his tongue easily now that he thought I was his ally. That is what she is demanding. Okay, I said, nodding seriously. My parents gave us a check for 50,000 for the house. We can use that as a start. The rest, we will have to figure it out. Maybe we can get a loan. No, he said quickly. No loans. We do not want a paper trail. The wedding gifts, there was a lot of cash. and some of the checks were made out to me. Between that and your parents' money, we should be close. He was already planning how to spend it. My family's love and generosity, reduced to a get-out-of-jail-free card for a common thief. The cold fury inside me burned hotter. Okay, I said again, my voice soft and agreeable. Let us go to the bank tomorrow morning and deposit everything. We will get this sorted out. Together. He smiled, a genuine, happy smile. He thought he had won. He leaned in and kissed me. I did not kiss him back, but I did not pull away either. I just endured it, my mind already on the next step of my plan. The next day, we went to the bank. I watched as he deposited the checks and the cash from our wedding gifts into our new joint account. He was practically giddy, chatting with the teller, making jokes. He was so close to his goal, so close to freedom. He did not notice the tight, predatory smile on my face. After we left the bank, I told him I needed to run some errands. I said I was going to the post office to mail out the last of the wedding thank you cards. He did not question it. He was too busy dreaming about his clean slate. But I did not go to the post office. I went to another branch of our bank, the one where my family had been customers for over 30 years. I had an appointment with the branch manager, a man who had known me since I was a little girl. I sat down in his office and told him everything. I showed him the text messages from Sarah. I showed him the financial documents she had emailed me, detailing the embezzlement. And I told him about the joint account and the $50,000 check from my parents that was now sitting in it. The manager, Mr. Henderson, listened patiently, his expression growing more and more grim. When I was finished, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. This is a very serious situation, Maya, he said. This is fraud. What Alex has done is a criminal offense. I know, I said, and I want to press charges, but first I need to protect my parents' money. I cannot let him take it. Normally, with a joint account, both parties have equal access, he explained. But given these are criminal circumstances, we can act. I can put a freeze on the account immediately. He will not be able to withdraw a single cent without both your signature and a bank officer present. A wave of relief washed over me. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. That is exactly what I needed. There is more we can do, he said, leaning forward. Given the proof of fraud you have provided, we can initiate a process to have the funds from your parents' check returned directly to their account. It will take a few days, but we can protect it. It was better than I had hoped. The trap was not just set, it was snapping shut. I left the bank feeling lighter than I had in days. Step 2 was complete. The money was safe. Now it was time to plan the final act. I wanted to do more than just have him arrested. That was too simple, too clean. He had humiliated me privately, and I was going to humiliate him publicly. He had tried to ruin my life in front of my family and friends, and I was going to return the favor. My parents had planned a post-wedding brunch for the following Sunday, a week after the ceremony. It was for close family and the bridal party, a final celebration before Alex and I were supposed to leave for our honeymoon. A honeymoon I now knew that he was planning to pay for with stolen money. It was the perfect stage. I called Chloe and told her the plan. She was ecstatic. Oh, this is going to be better than reality television, she cackled. What do you need me to do? I need you to be my witness, I said. And I need you to have your phone ready to record. I then called Sarah. I told her about the brunch. I want you to be there, I said. Are you sure? She asked, surprised. That could get messy. I am counting on it, I said. He has painted you as a monster. I want them to see the real victim of his crimes. I want them to see your face when the truth comes out. She agreed. The final pieces were falling into place. The week leading up to the brunch was a masterclass in deception. I played the part of the doting new wife. I talked with Alex about our future, about the house we would buy once we handled the Sarah situation. He was completely at ease, convinced that he had navigated the crisis perfectly. He was affectionate, attentive, and utterly fake. Every loving word he said, every gentle touch, was a lie. and I met his lies with my own, smiling and nodding, all the while counting down the hours until his world came crashing down. On Friday, 2 days before the brunch, he said, "We should go to the bank and withdraw the money for Sarah. It is better to give it to her in cash. No trail." "Good idea," I said, my heart starting to pound with anticipation. This was the moment. "Let us go now." We drove to the bank. He was humming along with the radio, the picture of a man without a care in the world. He had no idea he was driving towards his own doom. We walked up to the teller. Alex slid the withdrawal slip across the counter. "We would like to withdraw $200,000 from this account," he said with a confident smile. The teller typed something into her computer. Her smile faltered. She looked up at us, her expression confused. "I am sorry, sir," she said, "but there seems to be a freeze on this account, and the available balance is only $150,000. Alex's smile vanished. "What? That is impossible. We just deposited the money on Monday. And what do you mean, a freeze?" The $50,000 check from Mr. and Mrs. Gable was recalled due to suspected fraudulent activity, the teller said, reading from her screen. "And a hold has been placed on all remaining funds pending an investigation." Alex stared at her, his face turning a pasty white. He turned to me, his eyes wide with confusion and panic. "What is going on, Maya? Did you know about this?" I looked at him, and for the first time in a week, I let the mask drop. I let him see the cold, hard anger in my eyes. I gave him a small, tight smile. "Yes," I said, my voice clear and loud enough for everyone around us to hear. "I did. It is called protecting my family from a con artist. You are not getting a penny, Alex." His jaw dropped. He looked around, suddenly aware that people were staring. He grabbed my arm. "What are you talking about?" he hissed, trying to pull me away from the counter. "What did you do?" I pulled my arm away from his grasp. "I did what you should have done a long time ago," I said. "I told the truth. And on Sunday at the brunch, in front of our families, you are going to tell the truth too. All of it. Or I swear the next conversation you have will be with the police." I turned and walked out of the bank, leaving him standing there, his face a mask of disbelief and horror. The trap had been sprung. Now all that was left was to watch him squirm. The 2 days between the bank incident and the brunch were the longest of my life. Alex was a wreck. He alternated between begging, threatening, and pleading. He called me 100 times. He sent me desperate text messages. "Maya, please, we can fix this. You do not understand what you are doing. You are ruining my life." I did not answer. He showed up at my parents' house where I was staying. My father met him at the door. I did not hear what was said, but Alex left looking even more pale and shaken than before. My dad simply came back inside, sat down and said, "He will not be bothering you here again." During this time, I talked to my parents. I told them everything, the full sordid story. My mother cried. My father's face was like stone. He was furious, not at me, but at Alex and at himself for not seeing through the facade. "I knew there was something off about him," he said, his voice tight with anger. "I should have trusted my gut." "This is not your fault, Dad," I said. "He fooled everyone. He is a professional." "Well, his profession is about to come to an end," my father said grimly. He had already been in contact with his lawyer. They were preparing to file for an annulment and press charges for fraud. By the time Sunday morning arrived, I was calm. The storm of emotion had passed, leaving a quiet, resolute certainty in its place. I knew what I had to do. The brunch was held in a private room at a nice restaurant. Our families were there, my aunts and uncles, Alex's parents who had flown in for the wedding. The bridal party was there too. Everyone was chatting, laughing, completely unaware of the drama that was about to unfold. Alex arrived late. He looked terrible. He had dark circles under his eyes and he had not shaved. He walked over to me, his eyes pleading. "Maya, do not do this," he whispered. We can just disappear. We can leave, go somewhere else, start over. There is no we, Alex, I said, my voice cold. And we are not starting over. We are finishing this, right here, right now. I had arranged for a special guest to arrive just as everyone was sitting down to eat. Right on cue, the door opened and Sarah walked in. She was a tall, elegant woman with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense expression on her face. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on Alex. Alex froze. He looked like he had seen a ghost. His parents looked confused. "Alex, who is this?" his mother asked. Before he could answer, I stood up, tapping my glass with a spoon to get everyone's attention. The room fell silent. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice clear and strong. "I know you all came here to celebrate a marriage, but it turns out we are not here to celebrate. We are here for a confession." I looked directly at Alex. His face was ashen. "Alex has something he would like to tell you all," I said. "Something he told me just a few minutes before our wedding. Go on, Alex. Tell them what you told me." He just stood there, mute, paralyzed by fear and shame. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. "He is a little shy," I said to the room, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Let me help him. He told me that he was already married. To this woman, right here." I gestured to Sarah. "He told me her name was Sarah, and that she was his crazy, unstable wife who would not let him go." A wave of gasps and murmurs went through the room. Alex's parents looked horrified. "But that was not the truth, was it, Alex?" I continued, my voice rising. "That was just another lie. The truth is, you were never married to Sarah. You were her business partner. The truth is, you stole $200,000 from her, and she was threatening to go to the police. The truth is, you married me to get your hands on my family's money to pay her back and save your own skin." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. The silence in the room was absolute. Everyone was staring at Alex, their faces a mixture of shock, confusion, and dawning disgust. "And the story about being married?" I said, delivering the final blow. "That was your escape plan, your get-out-of-jail-free card. In case I found out about the money, you could just say our marriage was never legal anyway. You built yourself a safety net out of lies, at my expense, at my family's expense." I turned to Sarah. "Sarah, is there anything you would like to add?" Sarah stepped forward, her expression composed and powerful. She looked at Alex's parents. "Your son is a thief," she said, her voice steady. "He stole my life savings. I have the bank records, the legal documents, and the police report I am filing tomorrow morning. I am so sorry that he dragged all of you into his mess." Alex's mother started to cry. His father stood up, his face red with fury and shame. He walked over to Alex. "Is this true?" he demanded, his voice shaking with rage. "Is any of this true?" Alex could not speak. He just stared at the floor, his whole body trembling. His silence was his confession. His father looked at him with utter contempt. "You are no son of mine," he said, his voice breaking. He turned to my parents. "I am so sorry," he said. "We had no idea. We will pay you back, every penny he has taken." My father just nodded, his face grim. And then I did the last thing I had planned. I walked over to Alex. He flinched as I approached. I reached up and gently took the wedding ring off my finger. I held it in my palm. "You wanted a new beginning, Alex," I said, my voice quiet now. "Here it is." I opened my hand and let the ring drop to the floor. It made a small, tinny sound as it hit the polished wood. "You are free," I said. "Free to face the consequences of your actions. Alone." I turned my back on him and walked over to my parents. My mother wrapped her arms around me. My father put his hand on my shoulder. I did not look back. I did not need to. I could feel the weight of his ruin behind me. It was over. I had not just exposed him. I had dismantled him piece by piece in front of everyone he had tried to deceive. My revenge was complete, and it was colder, clearer, and more satisfying than I could have ever imagined.